Have you ever wondered why certain people seem to attract drama, manipulation, and toxicity wherever they go, while others move through life almost untouched by the chaos of others? Why do some individuals become magnets for toxic relationships, while others seem to repel negativity without even trying? The answer is not luck, nor is it some mysterious force of fate. It is a secret that Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, understood deeply. A secret that, once mastered, can change the way you experience every relationship in your life. That let's begin with a simple but uncomfortable truth. Toxic people are everywhere. They exist in families, workplaces, friendships, and even within ourselves. They're not always obvious. Sometimes they're with a mask of charm, helpfulness, or even love. But beneath the surface, they drain your energy, undermine your confidence, and leave you questioning your own worth. If you have ever felt exhausted after a conversation, doubted your own reality, or found yourself trapped in cycles of guilt and obligation, you have already encountered the influence of toxic people. But here's the real question. Why do toxic people target certain individuals and avoid others? Why do some people become easy prey, while others are left alone? Carl Jung believed that the answer lies not in the toxic person, but in you. The secret is not about changing the world or avoiding difficult people. It is about mastering something within yourself, a shift so profound that it changes the very energy you project into the world. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole, authentic, and sovereign over your own life. Individuation is not about becoming perfect or untouchable. It is about integrating all parts of yourself, especially the ones you have been taught to hide or reject. It is about knowing who you are, what you value, and where your boundaries lie. When you master this secret, toxic people sense it immediately. They realize, often unconsciously, that you are not someone they can manipulate, control, or drain. You become, in a very real sense, invisible to their games. But before we can talk about mastering this secret, we need to understand why toxic people are drawn to certain individuals in the first place. Jung believed that we all carry within us a shadow, the parts of ourselves that we deny, suppress, or refuse to acknowledge. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the sum of everything we have pushed out of our conscious awareness. It contains our fears, insecurities, anger, and even our hidden strengths. The more we deny our shadow, the more power it has over us. And here's the crucial point. Toxic people are experts at sensing and exploiting the shadows of others. Think about it. Have you ever noticed that manipulators always seem to know exactly which buttons to press? They sense your need for approval, your fear of rejection, your guilt, or your desire to be seen as good. They use these hidden parts of you as entry points, weaving themselves into your life in ways that feel almost inevitable. But what if you could close those entry points? What if you could become so self-aware, so integrated, that there were no buttons left to press? This is the secret Jung discovered. The more you own your shadow, the less power anyone else has over you. When you're no longer ashamed of your anger, your needs, your boundaries, or your imperfections, toxic people lose their leverage. They cannot guilt you for saying no, because you're not afraid of being seen as selfish. They cannot manipulate you with flattery, because you do not need their validation. They cannot control you with fear because you have already faced your own darkness and survived. But let's be honest, this is not an easy path. Most of us have spent our entire lives running from our shadows. We have been taught to be nice, to avoid conflict, to put others first, to hide our true feelings. We have learned that love is conditional, that acceptance must be earned, and that our worth depends on how useful we are to others. These lessons run deep, shaping our personalities, our relationships, and even our sense of self. Jung warned that as long as we remain unconscious of our shadow, we will be controlled by it. We will attract people and situations that mirror our unresolved wounds, repeating the same painful patterns again and again. The toxic friend who always takes but never gives. The partner who gaslights and blames. The boss who exploits your work and never acknowledges your effort. These are not accidents. They're invitations, painful, yes, but also opportunities to wake up and reclaim your power. So, how do you begin this journey? How do you master the secret that makes toxic people avoid you? It starts with radical honesty. You must be willing to look at yourself without judgment or denial. You must ask, what am I afraid of? Where do I feel unworthy? What parts of myself do I hide from the world? Where do I say yes when I want to say no? Where do I betray myself for the sake of peace or approval? This is not about blaming yourself for the actions of others. It is about taking responsibility for your own energy, your own boundaries, your own healing. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The moment you begin to see your own patterns, you take the first step toward freedom. But awareness alone is not enough. You must also learn to accept and integrate your shadow. This means making peace with your anger, your sadness, your needs, and your limits. It means understanding that you are not here to be perfect, but to be whole. It means giving yourself permission to exist as you are, without apology or explanation that as you do this, something remarkable happens. The energy you once spent hiding, pleasing, or defending yourself becomes available for something greater. Self-respect, clarity, and authentic connection. Toxic people sense this shift. They realize, often without knowing why, that you are no longer a suitable target. Your boundaries are clear, your presence is grounded, and your self-worth is not up for negotiation. This is the secret Jung wanted us to understand. The power to repel toxicity does not come from fighting the world, but from mastering yourself. It is an inner transformation that changes everything. But let's go deeper. If mastering your shadow is the secret, why do so many people resist it? Why do we cling to old patterns, even when they hurt us? The answer is simple, yet profound. Facing your shadow is uncomfortable. It means confronting the parts of yourself you were taught to fear, reject, or to despise. It means admitting that you are not always the victim, that sometimes you participate in your own suffering by refusing to set boundaries, by seeking validation from those who cannot give it, by staying silent when your soul is screaming for truth. Carl Jung understood that the journey to wholeness is not a path of comfort, but of courage. He wrote, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. In other words, true strength is not found in pretending to be above pain, but in embracing it, learning from it, and allowing it to transform you. The world tells you to hide your flaws, to mask your wounds, to present a polished version of yourself. But Jung invites you to do the opposite, to turn toward your pain, to listen to what it has to teach you, to integrate. Eat into your being. This is where the real transformation begins. When you stop running from your shadow, you stop running from yourself. You begin to see that your anger is not your enemy, but a messenger. Your sadness is not a weakness, but a signal that something needs attention. Your fear is not a curse, but a guide pointing you toward growth. Every emotion, every impulse, every part of you that you have tried to suppress is actually a source of wisdom, if you're willing to listen. But how do you listen? How do you begin to integrate your shadow in practical terms? Start by observing your reactions. Notice when you feel triggered, defensive, or anxious. Instead of blaming others or trying to escape the discomfort, pause and ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? What old wound is being touched? What need is going unmet? This simple act of self-inquiry is the first step toward reclaiming your power. For example, imagine you have a friend who constantly criticizes you, making subtle jabs at your choices, your appearance, or your dreams. In the past, you might have laughed it off, tried to please them, or internalized their words as truth. But now, with awareness, you recognize the sting of their comments as a reflection of your own insecurity. A part of you that still seeks approval, that still fears rejection. Instead of reacting or withdrawing, you acknowledge this part of yourself with compassion. You remind yourself that your worth is not defined by anyone else's opinion. You set a boundary, either by speaking up or by limiting your time with this person. In doing so, you reclaim a piece of your energy that was once lost to the shadows. This is not a one-time event, but a lifelong practice. Every relationship, every challenge, every moment of discomfort is an opportunity to see yourself more clearly, to integrate another piece of your shadow, to become more whole. And as you do, you will notice a subtle but powerful shift in your life. Toxic people will begin to fall away, not because you have changed them, but because you have changed yourself. Your energy no longer matches theirs. Your boundaries are no longer porous. Your self-respect is no longer negotiable. Jung believed that the people who trigger us the most are our greatest teachers. They reveal the places where we are still wounded, still unconscious, still vulnerable to manipulation. Instead of resenting these people, use them as mirrors. Ask yourself, what are they showing me about myself? What lesson is hidden in this pain? What part of me needs healing, acceptance, or protection? This is the essence of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are beyond the masks, the roles, and the expectations of others. It is a journey of self-discovery, self-acceptance, and ultimately self-mastery. And it is the only path to true freedom from toxic people. But let's be clear, mastering your shadow does not mean you will never encounter toxic people again. The world is full of individuals who are lost in their own pain, who project their wounds onto others, who seek control because they feel powerless inside. You cannot change them. You cannot save them, but you can choose how you respond. You can choose to protect your energy, to honor your boundaries, to walk away from situations that do not serve your growth. This is not selfishness. It is self-respect. It is the recognition that your life is your own, that your energy is precious, that your peace is worth protecting. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This privilege is not given. It is earned through courage, through honesty, through the willingness to face yourself again and again. As you walk this path, you will notice another change. The quality of your relationships will improve. You will attract people who respect your boundaries, who value your authenticity, who support your growth. You will find that you no longer tolerate manipulation, drama, or emotional games. You will become a beacon for those who are also committed to their own healing, their own individuation, but there is a price to this freedom. As you become more whole, more self-aware, you may lose people who are attached to your old patterns. Friends who thrived on your people-pleasing may drift away. Family members who relied on your silence may resist your new boundaries. Colleagues who exploited your willingness to overwork may resent your refusal to be used. This is the cost of growth, the shedding of relationships that no longer align with your truth. It can be lonely at times. You may question whether you're doing the right thing. You may feel guilt, doubt, or fear. But remember, every step you take towards self-mastery is a step away from toxicity. Every boundary you set is an act of self-love. Every time you choose yourself, you teach others how to treat you. As you continue on this journey, you may begin to notice something extraordinary. The more you honor your own boundaries, the more you become attuned to the subtle energies of others. You start to sense, almost instinctively, when someone's intentions are not aligned with your well-being. You recognize manipulation not just in words, but in tone, in timing, in the unspoken expectations that linger in the air. This heightened awareness is not paranoia. It is wisdom born from self-knowledge. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious mind communicates through symbols, feelings, and intuition. When you're disconnected from yourself, you ignore these signals. You rationalize red flags, make excuses for others, and ride your own discomfort in the name of harmony. But as you integrate your shadow, your intuition sharpens. You begin to trust your gut, to listen to the quiet voice within that says something is not right here. This is your inner compass, guiding you away from toxicity and toward authenticity. But let's be honest, trusting yourself is not always easy, especially if you have spent years doubting your own perceptions. Toxic people are masters at gaslighting, making you question your reality, your feelings, your memories. They thrive on confusion, on keeping you off balance, on making you dependent on their approval. The antidote to gaslighting is not confrontation, but clarity. The more you know yourself, the less susceptible you are to the distortions of others. Jung wrote, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." This awakening is the heart of individuation. It is the moment you realize that your value does not depend on anyone else's opinion, that your truth is valid even if no one else understands it, that your boundaries are sacred even if they make others uncomfortable. This is the secret that makes toxic people avoid you. They sense that you are awake, that you are no longer available for their games, that you are rooted in your own reality. But what does it look like in practical terms to live from this place of self-mastery? It means saying no without guilt, It means walking away from conversations that drain you. It means refusing to explain or justify your choices to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. It means prioritizing your peace over the comfort of others. It means trusting that the right people will respect your boundaries, and the wrong people will reveal themselves when you enforce them. This is not about building walls or becoming cold. It is about cultivating discernment, the ability to see clearly, to choose wisely, to act from a place of inner alignment. Jung believed that discernment is the fruit of self-knowledge. The more you understand your own motives, desires, and wounds, the less likely you are to be manipulated by the motives, desires, and wounds of others. But let's address a common fear. What if setting boundaries makes you lose everyone? What if you end up alone? This fear is rooted in the old belief that your worth is tied to your usefulness, your availability, your willingness to sacrifice yourself for others. But Jung teaches us that true connection is only possible when you are whole within yourself. When you stop abandoning yourself to keep others close, you create space for relationships that are based on mutual respect, not dependency. It is better to be alone in your truth than surrounded by people who only love the version of you that serves their needs. Loneliness, in this context, is not a punishment. It is a sacred space where you can reconnect with your essence, heal your wounds, and prepare for deeper, more authentic connections. Jung called this the creative solitude, a time of inner retreat where you rebuild your identity from the inside out. During this period, you may grieve the loss of old relationships, old patterns, old versions of yourself. This grief is natural. It is the mourning of illusions, the letting go of roles that no longer fit, the release of attachments that kept you small. Allow yourself to feel this grief without judgment. It is a sign that you are growing, that you are moving beyond survival and into self-actualization. As you emerge from this solitude, you will notice that your energy has changed. You are no longer easily triggered by the opinions or actions of others. You respond rather than react. You choose rather than comply. You observe rather than absorb. This is the essence of emotional sovereignty, the ability to remain centered in yourself, regardless of external circumstances. Toxic people sense this sovereignty. They realize, often unconsciously, that their usual tactics no longer work on you. They may try to escalate, to provoke, to guilt trip, or to shame you back into compliance. But you remain unmoved, not because you are indifferent, but because you are anchored in your own truth. This is the power of individuation. You become immune to manipulation, not by fighting others, but by mastering yourself. But let's not romanticize this process. There will be moments of doubt, moments when you question your choices, moments when the old patterns beckon you back with the promise of comfort or acceptance. In these moments, remember Jung's words. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Self-acceptance is not a destination, but a daily practice. It requires vigilance, compassion, and the willingness to begin again, no matter how many times you falter. As you continue to master this secret, you will find that your life becomes simpler, quieter, and more peaceful. The drama fades. The chaos subsides. The people who once drained you disappear, making room for those who nourish and inspire you. You realize that you do not need to chase love, approval, or validation. You are enough exactly as you are. This is the gift of individuation, the freedom to be yourself, the courage to stand alone, the wisdom to choose your own path. It is the secret that makes toxic people avoid you, not because you are invulnerable, but because you are whole. But what about the world outside? What happens when you step out of your inner sanctuary and face the everyday realities of work, family, and society? The truth is, the world will not always celebrate your transformation. In fact, the more you embody self-mastery, the more you may encounter resistance from those who are invested in the old version of you. Some will accuse you of being selfish, cold, or arrogant. Others will try to pull you back into familiar roles: peacemaker, fixer, caretaker, or scapegoat. This is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are changing. Carl Jung understood that every act of individuation disrupts the collective. When you break free from unconscious patterns, you challenge the status quo, not just in your own life, but in the lives of everyone around you. Your boundaries force others to confront their own lack of boundaries. Your honesty exposes the lies that others tell themselves. Your refusal to play old games reveals the emptiness of those games. This can be uncomfortable, even painful, for those who are not ready to face their own shadows. But remember, you are not responsible for the growth of others. You are only responsible for your own integrity. Jung wrote, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents." In other words, do not carry the weight of other people's expectations, disappointments, or unhealed wounds. Your journey is your own. The more you honor your truth, the more you give others permission to do the same, even if they resist at first. This is where the real test of self-mastery lies. Can you remain true to yourself in the face of misunderstanding, criticism, or rejection? Can you hold your boundaries when others push against them? Can you choose your own peace over the comfort of fitting in? These are not easy questions, but they're the questions that define your freedom. And let's talk about boundaries for a moment. Boundaries are not walls. They're bridges. They're not about shutting people out, but about defining where you end and others begin. Healthy boundaries allow for connection without enmeshment, compassion without self-sacrifice, love without loss of self. Toxic people hate boundaries because boundaries expose their manipulation. When you say no, when you refuse to be guilt or shamed, you force them to confront their own emptiness. Some will escalate, some will withdraw, but all will be forced to choose. Respect your boundaries or lose access to your energy. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, but it is also an act of courage. It requires you to tolerate the discomfort of disappointing others, to withstand the pressure to conform, to risk being misunderstood. But every time you honor your boundaries, you strengthen your sense of self. You teach yourself and the world that your needs matter, your feelings are valid, and your life is your own. Jung believed that the process of individuation is not just personal, but collective. As you heal yourself, you contribute to the healing of the world. Every time you break a cycle of abuse, manipulation, or self-abandonment, you create a ripple effect that touches everyone around you. You become a living example of what is possible, a beacon of authenticity in a world that often rewards conformity. But let's be honest, The path of individuation can be lonely. There will be moments when you long for the comfort of old patterns, when you miss the familiarity of unhealthy relationships, when you question whether the price of freedom is too high. In these moments, remember that loneliness is not the same as isolation. Loneliness is the space between who you were and who you are becoming. It is the void that opens up when you let go of what no longer serves you but have not, yet found what will. This void is not a punishment. It is a sacred space of transformation. It is where you meet yourself, stripped of all masks and roles. It is where you discover your true desires, your deepest values, your authentic voice. It is where you learn to enjoy your own company, to find peace in solitude, to trust that you are enough, even when you are alone. As you move through this void, you will begin to attract new people, new opportunities, new experiences that resonate with your true self. These connections will feel different, lighter, freer, more genuine. You will notice that you no longer have to perform, to please, to prove yourself. You can simply be, and in this being, you will find a sense of belonging that is deeper than any external validation. But do not rush this process. Healing takes time. Growth is not linear. There will be setbacks, relapses, moments of doubt. This is normal. The key is to remain compassionate with yourself, to celebrate your progress, to forgive your mistakes. Jung wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Every day is a new opportunity to choose yourself, to honor your journey, to master the secret that makes toxic people avoid you. Let's return to the idea of energy. Your energy is your most valuable resource. It is the currency of your life. Every thought, every emotion, every interaction either nourishes or depletes you. Toxic people are experts at draining your energy, at hooking you into cycles of drama, guilt, or obligation. The more you master yourself, the more selective you become about where you invest your energy. You learn to say no to what drains you and yes to what sustains you. This selectivity is not selfishness. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you cannot save others at the expense of yourself, that your first responsibility is to your own well-being. As you honor this truth, you become a source of strength, not just for yourself, but for everyone you encounter. As you continue to master this secret, you may notice that your entire perspective on relationships begins to shift. Where you once saw yourself as a victim of other people's behavior, you now see yourself as the creator of your own experience. You realize that you have the power to choose who enters your life, who stays, and who must leave. You understand that your boundaries are not just lines drawn in the sand, but expressions of your self-worth. Carl Jung taught that the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. The people you attract, the situations you encounter, the patterns you repeat, all are mirrors of your own consciousness. When you change your inner landscape, your outer reality transforms. Toxic people may still exist, but they no longer have access to your energy. Their words no longer wound you. Their games no longer ensnare you. Their presence no longer disturbs your peace. This is not magic. It is psychology. When you are clear about who you are, what you value, and what you will and will not tolerate, you send a powerful signal to the world. People sense your confidence, your clarity, your self-respect. Those who are healthy and whole are drawn to you, while those who seek to manipulate or control are repelled. It is as if you have become invisible to toxicity, not because you are hiding, but because you're shining too brightly to be dimmed. But let's talk about the practical side of this transformation. How do you maintain your boundaries in a world that often rewards self-sacrifice and punishes self-respect? How do you stay true to yourself when others try to guilt, shame, or pressure you into compliance? The answer lies in daily practice. Self-mastery is not a one-time achievement. It is a way of life. Start each day by checking in with yourself. Ask, how do I feel? What do I need? Where am I giving my energy? And is it being reciprocated? Notice where you feel drained, resentful, or anxious. These are signs that your boundaries may be slipping, that you are giving more than you are receiving, that you are betraying yourself for the sake of others. When you notice these patterns, pause. Take a breath. Remind yourself that you have the right to say no, to change your mind, to protect your peace. You do not owe anyone an explanation for honoring your needs. You do not have to justify your boundaries to those who refuse to respect them. Your life is your own, and you're the only one who can decide how it is lived. Jung believed that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. When you are at peace within, the chaos of the world cannot touch you. When you are rooted in self-love, the opinions of others lose their power. When you are committed to your own growth, the drama of toxic people becomes irrelevant. But let's be real. There will be times when you are tempted to fall back into old patterns. You may find yourself people-pleasing, overgiving, or tolerating disrespect out of habit or fear. In these moments, do not judge yourself. Instead, use them as opportunities to deepen your self-awareness. Ask, what am I afraid of? What am I trying to avoid? What old wound is being triggered? The more you understand your own motivations, the easier it becomes to choose differently. Remember, self-mastery is not about perfection. It is about progress. It is about showing up for yourself, day after day, even when it is hard. It is about forgiving yourself for your mistakes, learning from your experiences, and recommitting to your path. Jung wrote, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. This awakening is the foundation of your freedom. As you awaken, you will notice that your standards rise. You no longer settle for crumbs of affection, scraps of attention, or half-hearted apologies. You demand respect, honesty, and reciprocity, not just from others, but from yourself. You become your own protector, your own advocate, your own best friend. This is the ultimate act of self-love, to refuse to abandon yourself, no matter what. And as you embody this self-love, you inspire others to do the same. You become a model of what is possible, a living example of healthy boundaries, authentic connection, and inner peace. Some will be drawn to your light, seeking to learn from your example. Others will be threatened by your strength, seeking to dim your shine. Let them. Your job is not to make everyone comfortable. Your job is to be true to yourself. This is the paradox of individuation. The more you become yourself, the more you belong to yourself. The less you need from others, the more you have to give. The less you chase approval, the more you attract genuine connection. The less you fear rejection, the more you experience freedom. But do not mistake this freedom for isolation. True self-mastery does not mean cutting yourself off from the world. It means engaging with the world from a place of wholeness, not neediness. It means giving from overflow, not emptiness. It means loving others without losing yourself. Carl Jung believed that the goal of life is not happiness, but meaning. Meaning is found in the courage to face yourself, the wisdom to learn from your pain, and the strength to choose your own path. When you master this secret, toxic people will avoid you. Not because you are untouchable, but because you are unbreakable. So, what does life look like when you have truly mastered this secret? Imagine waking up each day with a sense of calm that is not dependent on anyone else's mood or approval. Imagine moving through your world with a quiet confidence, knowing that you are safe within yourself, no matter what storms may rage outside. Imagine relationships that are built on mutual respect, honesty, and freedom, where you're loved for who you are, not for the role you play or the energy you provide. This is not a fantasy. It is the natural result of individuation, of integrating your shadow, of honoring your boundaries. It is the reward for the courage to face yourself, to heal your wounds, to choose your own path. It is the life that Carl Jung envisioned for all of us, a life of meaning, authenticity, and deep connection. But let's be clear, this journey is not about becoming perfect or invulnerable. It is about becoming real. It is about embracing your humanity, with all its messiness, contradictions, and imperfections. It is about accepting that you will sometimes falter, sometimes feel pain, sometimes make mistakes. But instead of hiding from these moments, you meet them with compassion and curiosity. You ask, what is this here to teach me? How can I grow from this? How can I use this experience to become more whole? This attitude of self-inquiry is the foundation of resilience. When you're willing to learn from every experience, good or bad, you become unshakable. You're no longer at the mercy of toxic people because you no longer need their approval or fear their rejection. You are no longer trapped in cycles of drama because you recognize your own patterns and choose differently. You are no longer drained by the demands of others because you know how to replenish your own energy. And as you embody this resilience, you become a force for good in the world. You inspire us to face their own shadows, to set their own boundaries, to reclaim their own power. You become a safe haven for those who are ready to heal, and a mirror for those who are not. Some will be drawn to your light, seeking to learn from your example. Others will be repelled, unable to tolerate the clarity and strength you embody. Let both responses be. Your job is not to save or fix anyone, but to live your truth as fully as you can. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This privilege is not reserved for a select few. It is available to anyone who is willing to do the work. It is available to you right now in this moment. All it requires is the willingness to look within, to face your fears, to honor your needs, and to trust your own journey. So, how do you continue to master this secret day after day? Here are a few guiding principles. First, practice radical honesty with yourself. Notice when you're tempted to hide, to please, to perform. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What do I truly want? Where am I betraying myself for the sake of others? The more honest you are with yourself, the less power anyone else has over you. Second, cultivate self-compassion. You will make mistakes. You will have setbacks. You will sometimes fall back into old patterns. This is not failure. It is part of the process. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a dear friend. Remember, healing is not linear. Progress is not always visible. Trust that every step you take, no matter how small, is moving you forward. Third, honor your boundaries. Say no when you need to. Walk away from situations that drain you. Protect your energy as fiercely as you would protect a child. Your boundaries are not just for you. They're for everyone who loves and depends on you. When you are whole, you have more to give. When you are depleted, everyone suffers. Fourth, seek meaning, not just happiness. Life will not always be easy or comfortable. There will be pain, loss, and disappointment. But there will also be joy, growth, and connection. Find meaning in every experience. Ask yourself, how can I use this moment to become more of who I am? How can I serve others from a place of wholeness? How can I contribute to the healing of the world? Finally, surround yourself with people who support your growth. Seek out relationships that are based on mutual respect, honesty, and freedom. Let go of those who cannot honor your boundaries or celebrate your authenticity. Remember, you're not responsible for the happiness of others. You're only responsible for your own integrity. As you live these principles, you will notice that toxic people naturally fall away. They may try to re-enter your life, to test your boundaries, to lure you back into old patterns. But you will recognize their tactics for what they are, attempts to regain access to your energy, your attention, your power. You will no longer be available for their games. You will no longer be a source of supply for their emptiness. You will be free. And in this freedom, you will discover a new kind of strength, a strength that is quiet, steady, and unshakable. You will find peace, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You will find love, not because you have earned it, but because you have become it. You will find meaning, not in the approval of others, but in the authenticity of your own life. This is the secret that Carl Jung wanted us to master. This is the path to a life where toxic people avoid you, not because you are hiding, but because you're shining too brightly to be dimmed. This is the journey of individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are. As you move forward from this moment, remember, you have the power to choose yourself, to honor your boundaries, to master your energy. You have the right to be whole, to be free, to be at peace. The world may not always understand, but your soul will. And that is enough. If this message resonates with you, let it be a turning point. Let it be the day you decide to stop running from your shadow, to stop giving your power away, to stop settling for less than you deserve. Let it be the day you choose yourself fully and unapologetically. Because when you master this secret, toxic people will avoid you, not by accident, but by design. And in their absence, you will find the space to become everything you were always meant to be.